What's going on, guys? My name's Theoatrix and welcome to my complete beginner's Barbarian Assault guide. I'll be covering the basics of the minigame with the best strategy for each role, as well as fighting the Penance Queen. I'd like to give a massive thanks to Eli, or E with 6 eyes in game, for helping me write the majority of this guide. Also, a huge thanks to these members from Casual BA and BA Boosts for taking me through the best strategy, waves, and for helping me with the footage. Barbarian Assault is a strategy and teamwork based minigame where a group of 5 players are put up against 10 waves of the Penance. Each wave increases in difficulty until the last wave where you're up against the Penance Queen. It's a safe minigame, meaning dying in there will not result in a real death. All that happens is the wave will end. There's 4 roles that players can fill: attacker, who fends off the fighters and rangers; collector, who is responsible for picking up eggs from the dead penance creatures and then loading them into the cannon; there's healer, who poisons the penance healers and you can heal your teammates as well. Lastly, defender must kill the penance runners on the traps on either side of the arena. Before you enter Barbarian Assault, you need to complete the tutorial upstairs by speaking to Captain Kane. If you want to skip the tutorial, you can tell him you're an expert. He's found in the Barbarian Long Hall, south of the lighthouse, and the easiest way there is using a games necklace to the Barbarian outpost. Or once you complete the tutorial, you can use the minigame teleport to get there quickly. Barbarian Assault allows players to get a fighter torso, which provides the best in slot strength bonus for the plate body slot, tied with the Bandos chest plate. Players may also choose to do Barbarian Assault to complete the Elite Kandarin Diary, which requires level 5 in every role. Let's get into the basics of playing the minigame. You form a team in the Wave 1 room on World 306, the official Barbarian Assault world. When you spawn in, everybody spawns in with a horn. In the top right corner, you'll see some white text next to the mouth icon, and every 30 seconds, you need to right-click the horn and call. Once you call correctly, the color will change from white to yellow, indicating a correct call. It's so important to call quickly for your team's coordination. Above this is the call for you. This indicates what you need to do for your role. If you don't switch to the new call, your whole team loses points. The scroller is the leader of the team, and they pick up a scroll off the table in the starter room. It's usually best to have the scroller as an attacker because of the spawn locations within the minigame. In every team, you want to start with 2 attackers to get through the lower waves. If you're all lower leveled, then one of the attackers can switch to healer during the later waves to help the team stay alive. To be invited to a team, you'll need to turn on Accept Aid. Unless you're an Iron Man, then you don't have to. If you've already played Barbarian Assault before, or your team has to reset, then you can right-click the first door to reset your wave. It's a good idea to turn off Auto Retaliate so you don't get pulled across the map and accidentally attack with the wrong styles. If you're a defender, healer, or collector, you can hide your NPC attack options in the settings, and that's very useful so you don't accidentally click on the fighter or ranger while you're playing. After each wave, you don't need to wait for the countdown. You can right-click the ladder to quick start to enter the wave. When you first begin in the arena, you gather your supplies at the dispensers. For attackers, you get arrows. For healers, you get poison food. For defenders, you get bait. And as a collector, you don't need the dispenser at the start of the round. If you want to change the roles, then you can leave and re-enter the wave while in the waiting room so that the scroller can add you back to the team, but try to organize this beforehand to avoid confusion. Once you've gotten all your points, do not leave your team halfway through. You should ask to switch roles or continue to finish the queen. At the end of each wave, you're given the option to level up your role. Leveling up dramatically improves how efficiently you can play in that role. If you're going for a torso though, it's not recommended to level up. Getting into the role strategies, as I said, there's 4 roles: attacker, collector, healer, and defender. And I'm going to be doing them in order from least difficult to most difficult. As an attacker, at the start of the round, you want to run west of the cannon, and you'll do that on every wave to stay as far away from the east as possible. That's so you don't lure any healers across the map, which helps the healer significantly speed up the waves. The best option for attackers is using ranged, and ideally a magic shortbow imbued is the best option since it has 2 special attacks on every wave. Void is the best armor option, although if you don't have Void, the best ranged armor such as Dragonhide or Carol's is the best. Since you're given specific arrows, You can't use blowpipes and crossbows. It's not recommended to use melee or mage, but if you do need to use melee, use something like a dragon scimitar with all 4 attack styles. A tip for using ranged is to look at the spell color when the collector calls. The arrows will match the color of the spells, like fire spells will match the red arrows. If fighters or rangers go east, don't chase them until all of the other rangers and fighters are killed. When you are finished, kill off any of the fighters and rangers that went east, then run straight for the eastern cannon to help shoot red and green eggs to the remaining penance healers or runners. Don't leave the cannon while you're there because that helps the luring for all the other players. If you're a low level, then killing the rangers is best since they deal the most damage. You may also want to take tank armor if you're low leveled that you can use for the later waves. If your hit points are getting low, you should stand next to one of the cannons so you're not being attacked and wait for the healer to come and heal you. The next role is Collector, and as a Collector, you want to stay west with the attackers since they're the ones that are producing the most eggs. This also stops you getting in the way of the healer and defender. Same with the attackers, you want to never pass the spike south of the ranger cave until all of the rangers and fighters are dead. The most important job is quickly calling for the attackers so they can kill the penance rangers and fighters. You should be picking up as many eggs as possible corresponding to the correct color. Second to that, you want to be loading as many red eggs as you can into the cannon. As Collector, the more eggs that you collect, the more points that your team gets. So it's recommended to destroy any blue eggs because you won't be firing these since they don't do much. Destroying them gives more inventory space, allowing you to get more points. So try to load up as many red and green eggs as you can, specifically once the fighters and rangers are dead. And again, don't leave the cannon area to avoid ruining the lures of the healer and defender. Gear wise, as a collector, if you're low leveled, wearing your best tank gear is the best idea. Moving into healer, and before you start healer, it's best to fully empty your inventory as you'll need as much space as you can for food from the dispenser. The healer's job is pretty simple. You'll use the poisoned food on the penance healers. So at the start, you'll use the dispenser to get the poisoned food and run up to the healers as fast as you can on the eastern side. You should always run on the east side of the eastern cannon and stay east of the runner cave for the first 2 calls unless you're healing your teammates. This is to help keep the healers close to you, and you'll be able to poison the newly spawning healers very quickly. After wave 3, there are reserve healers that only come out when another healer has died. So a good trick to get the reserve healers to spawn is to simply target one healer and use 4 or 5 food on them while poisoning the other 3 as they spawn. Then during the second call, you can re-poison any healers ticking at a 3 or less and use the remaining food on the newly spawned reserve healers that aren't yet poisoned. For each call, you want to finish all of the good food. If you don't have the correct food during the 3rd call, then you can shift click and delete any remaining food and restock back at the dispenser. This is also the best time to fill up your vial if you want to heal any teammates. If your team is very experienced, you won't need to heal anybody, although with a bit less experience, it's likely you'll need to heal some people on wave 9 or 10. It's very important to avoid the trap and not walk through the defender, because this ruins his multi-kill, which results in a lot more time spent in the wave. So be very careful when poisoning healers that are on the defender. So that leads me to the defender role, which is usually the most difficult for new players, but once you understand how it works, it's actually one of the easiest. Again, before starting defender, it's best to empty your bag since you'll need as much space as you can. As a defender, you need to understand good food versus bad food. The food that the healer calls you is good food, and when you drop that, the penance runners will run towards it, eat it, and continue running. The other 2 food are bad food, which will cause runners to go back where they came from, which can be very useful for reluring stray runners. Once you drop food, it will always remain good or bad from the moment that you drop it, so you'll never need to pick up food from the ground. This is what you do as a defender. First, drop 1 bad food south of the spikes, which is south of the trap. Then drop 4 good food 1 tile north of the trap. Then drop 1 bad food anywhere between these 2 spikes here. Then drop 4 good food west of the spike near the runner's cave. You can then collect 2 logs from the middle of the map, or 3 if you're on a higher wave, and drop 1 bad food where the first log is. This pushes any runners that go west back to the east. So then pick up the hammer and run back to the trap. From here, you drop every piece of good food that you have in your inventory, depending on whatever the call is. Then you fix the trap and wait until all of the runners are stacked up next to you. Once every runner is there, move one tile south so that you're standing on top of the trap, and after a few seconds, you'll multi-kill the runners. Once all runners are dead, you can stand to the east of the trap to lure any healers that spawn. After that, you can also shoot the cannon. Ground markers are extremely useful for defenders. The biggest thing to remember is the 1-4-1-4-1 drop placement, where the 4 will always be good food piles and 1 will be bad food. If you make a mistake or you're too slow, you can use a trail of bad food to re-lure it back to the eastern side after you finish multi-killing the other runners. As a defender, Wave 10 is a little bit different. You'll be dropping 1 bad food near the spike south of the trap, then drop 4 good food west of the trap, and this stops runners getting stuck behind the poison crater. Drop 4 food below the little spike between the runner and healer caves, then get logs and a hammer, then stand on top of your food pile next to the trap, and when it's 0, drop the whole second call, fix the trap, then move north of the trap and continue fixing it when it goes 0. Standing north of the trap will also lure the healers behind the poison crater, helping out the healer. So next we have the Queen, which is on wave 10, but comes out after a seemingly normal wave of Barbarian Assault. Before the Queen comes up, you have to kill every remaining NPC, and once she spawns, she needs to be killed by firing 8 Omega eggs at her. If your team is low level, it's best to stand by the healer pool, so it's easy for the healer to heal you until you're ready to go. If you're a higher level or your team is 1 egging, which I'll explain shortly, then you can stand by the lava and poison craters to create the egg as fast as possible. So this is how you create the Omega egg. The collector needs to get the yellow egg from underneath the Queen and pass it to the healer. The healer dunks it in the poison crater, then is given to the attacker, who gets spikes from the mushrooms and attaches them to the egg, and those spikes can be gathered before the Queen spawns if you want to save time. The attacker then passes the egg to the defender, who dunks it into lava. Then the defender gives the completed egg back to the collector, who loads it into the cannon once the team is ready to fire. The easiest way to remember that order is with the acronym CHAD: collector, healer, attacker, defender, and then back to the collector. So this is how to 1-egg the Queen. The Omega egg is quite different from the other colored eggs. Every click during the Omega's fire tick registers as a hit, as long as the team's scroller, so the person who made the team, isn't shooting. This means that although the Queen needs 8 eggs to kill, all she really needs is 8 clicks. In a team not familiar with 1-egging, getting multiple Omega eggs is perfectly fine, but a capable team can kill a Queen with 1 egg. So the collector should preload the cannon with any red, green, or blue egg before the Queen spawns, so that the firing interface is up beforehand. Everyone except the collector and the scroller should get onto the cannon and prepare to spam click the Omega icon. The collector should load the Omega from 1 tile away to give players time to react. Everyone else should begin spam clicking to fire the Omega egg as the collector moves to load. Something that the scroller can do to make this process easier is to do an animation stall to delay the egg deletion from the cannon, so this increases the time that the team has to click and fire. The simplest way to do this is by spam equipping elemental shields. Since they have a 1-tick stall on equipping it, there's a period where the eggs won't be fired as long as you're the scroller. This is because as a scroller, all of the ticks within the arena are based off you. So if you stall a tick, then things like mobs spawning in the minigame or shooting an egg will be delayed. There's also a way you can force the spawning of the yellow egg so that it appears faster. This helps the lower level players survive since you don't have to take as much damage from the Queen. If you're the scroller, all you need to do is basically spam click a prayer or your quick prayers as the trapdoor opens up and the Queen is spawning. And then stop clicking when the trapdoor below and the Queen goes to normal. So that's how to kill the Queen, and that sums up my entire Beginner's Barbarian Assault guide. I hope you guys learned something interesting. If you are already level 5, then you can join Casual BA to pet hunt or play socially at Barbarian Assault. If you don't want to BA at all, then you can leech and AFK with the clan chat, which will do all the work for you, like BA boosts, who are the cheapest for leeching Barbarian Assault, and there's also BA services, which also offers leeching. A big thanks to Eli again for his massive help. A big thanks to Zyborg, Zaculus, IamFixate, Perky, and True Knight for their assistance as well. Thank you for watching this beginner guide. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe down below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.